My God, and my salvation, by night and by day, through his holy prophet, true Ali. Make you see this. First, we start by giving praises to the highest concept that we can conceive in flesh. We call that ideal the great God Allah. Islam. It states in a questionnaire of the Moorish Science Temple of America, who do we refer to at times as being the great God? And the answer is Allah. Now, there is a reason why at times we refer to him as the great God, and at other times we refer to him as other names, such as Allah. Allah has 99 attributes plus more that the human mind cannot conceive. Those 99 attributes are no more than pieces of Allah that the human understanding can grasp. Most beneficent, most loving, compassionate, charitable. All these things are aspects of the great God, the universal creator, the Father, Allah. And when we refer to the God that cannot be circumscribed, the God that cannot be described or limited by words, the one that surpasses human understanding, the one that you can't prescribe attributes to at all, that is the great God, Allah. Islam? At other times, we refer to him as Elohim. Elohim is the seven created spirits that created everything that ever was, is, or evermore to be. Make no mistake about it, there is nothing in the universe but God. Nothing else lives outside of God. Nothing else is beside God. Nothing else is above God, below, to the right, or to the left. There's only God. Islam? That's why the first declaration that one must make when they embark on this journey of Islamism is that there is no God, only Allah. There is nothing outside of me, only the one. There is nothing that compares to the one. There's only the one. There is no me. There is no you. There's only the one. There's no high, there's no low, there's no rich, there's no poor. All things are in the one. And man and Allah, the one, are one. There are no distinctions. There are no separations. It's only the mental conception of man that creates a barrier between him and the one. And so that's why it's a sin to associate partners with the one. They call it Islam shirk. That's when you associate partners with God, saying that there's something else outside of God. And that's why the declaration is the Shahada, the bearing witness, that's what that means. That there is only one. There isn't two. And when we walk around with that conception, when we realize that truth, Brother Mindbag, then we are walking in the Garden of Eden once again. We are in paradise. We are in the land of Canaan, the land of milk and honey, which is a realization that Allah and man are one. You indeed become the firstborn again. With that being said, I want to give honor to the supreme personality of that oneness in flesh. And he goes by the name of Prophet Nosis. I say that he's the supreme personality of that oneness in flesh because man himself is supposed to be the supreme personality of God. It states that we are made in the image and and after the likeness of God, which means that we look and we act like God when we are in our higher selves. But it's hard for carnal-minded or worldly-minded men and women to be themselves. We always are trying to be something other than our true nature, our true self. So, as a result, the image of God that we are made into, right, is distorted. That reflection, which we are, of God, becomes distorted. And so we do not manifest the potencies and the qualities of Allah the way we should. And when we get to that state, that degraded state, the one manifests himself on earth during certain periods of time to teach us that he and I are one. That it's an illusion to believe that there is something outside of yourself. It says in the great scriptures, he who sees his self in all harms none. Imagine that. If you see yourself in everybody, would you harm anybody? No, you wouldn't. You would endeavor to assist the poor and help the weak. Right? Because that's what you would want to happen to you if you was in that condition. Do unto others as you would have others do unto you. So when you see others as you definitely would do unto others as you would have others do unto you. But when you see somebody else as something outside of yourself, an antagonist, if you will, he automatically becomes the enemy. Your opponent. Your challenger. And this is when the prophets say the carnal law of survival of the best comes into effect because you see somebody else taking your piece of pie that you believe you should have. But when you see the self in all, you harm none. And that's what we endeavor to do. Prophet Nosis brought this understanding to us. He exemplified the Holy Koran and Moorish science of America. Not just this. This is a link to all holy scriptures. All holy scriptures are one and the same. You can't have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different teachings. They all lead to the same goal, which is God realization. That is the goal that you are endeavoring to have. Right? As our HS said, one means one. Add anything else to it, it makes two. One means one. Jesus said, my Father and I are what? One. That's what he said. He didn't say two, he said one. So I give honor to Prophet Nosis for demonstrating this is what scientists do. We are Moorish scientists. Thus the name of this organization is the Moorish Science Temple of America. Scientists demonstrate universal laws, natural law, nature's law. And this is what we do here in the temple. We just don't profess the truth. We demonstrate the truth. So I want to give honor to the first Supreme Grand Sheikh of the Moorish Science Temple of America. In fact, the first Sheikh, period, in the Moorish Science Temple of America, Brother E. Millier. I want to give honor to him because he indeed is Act 1 of the Divine Constitution of Babylon. When the prophet was scribing Act 1, he had a person in mind. And that person that he had in mind was no other than the Supreme Grand Sheikh, Brother E. Millier. We give honor to him because the prophet put him in power to make law and enforce law while he was still breathing. He delegated his power to Brother Millier while he still was manifested on earth. There is no question of successorship. There is no question. Because he didn't succeed the prophet, he had the same position that he had when the prophet was in the flesh. Nothing changed. Islam? It's only the carnal-minded men who don't want to get in line with the truth find excuses not to follow the truth and create fictitious things things like successorship, conflict and successorship. Well, there wasn't no conflict when he sat Gamaliel in the seat in the first annual convention, and there is no conflict with Muslims today who are under the Prophet's grand body. Islam? I give honor to the charter, which I call the Ark of the Covenant. If anybody know anything about the Ark of the Covenant, wherever the Israelites went, as long as they had the Ark of the Covenant with them, God was dwelling with them. And when they abandoned, and they got so haughty, and they was winning all these wars against these other nations, they got so haughty, they really thought it was them. Right? As we often do. And so they thought they could leave the Ark of the Covenant behind. And guess what happened? They left it behind, and they got their behinds whipped. And they realized that it was the true and living God that was in their presence that was responsible for their victims. And I say this to you, if you got the true and living God in your life, on your side, then you will win every battle that you come against. Islam? The charter for us is our living Ark of the Covenant. It's symbolic of the law that's written in our hearts. It gives us the authority to initiate and confer the degrees of the Moorish Science Temple of America in D.C. That's what that states. Because science must be understood in degrees. You must be developed, and it must be taught to you. Islam? We don't need no priests, but we need teachers. He didn't say we didn't need teachers. He said we didn't need priests. And a lot of people make a mistake. They confuse teachers and priests. So you got a lot of people out there who believe that they know. And they self-appointed, self-anointed, and self-consecrated. You know, I call that's masturbation. No offense. But when you touch yourself, that's masturbation. Islam? You cannot touch yourself. Someone must touch you for you. Someone must anoint you. And that's what that charter represents. A chain. A spiritual power that came from our ancient fathers. By his prophet. Who gave it to us. And now we have the power and the authority to confer and initiate the degrees of the Moorish Science in America. That's all I'm going to give honor to. Supreme Grand Sheikh of the Moorish Science Temple of America today. He's the 8th Supreme Grand Sheikh, Brother Emmanuel Braswell Bay, who have inspired me and inspired all of us. In fact, he is the one that anointed, appointed, and consecrated me on this mission. And I feel emboldened because of that consecration. This long, Sister Wisdom, right? I feel emboldened. If you can't see the boldness on my face, just imagine. I feel it. Because I was touched by one who was touched, by one who was touched, by one who was touched. Must go on. That was touched by the prophet. Islam. Who looked like me, who talked like me, who came from the state of North Carolina, 1886.
So true.
We know what was going on in 1886 in North Carolina. We all know what was going on. One who was able to lift himself out of the Book and Maya and still perpetuate the science of his ancient fathers in spite of all of the obstacles that he came across because of the state of North Carolina, 1886. Islam? I'm going to give honor to the sheiks and sheikesses of the Moorish Science Temple of America and the sheiks and sheikesses of Temple 52, which we lovingly and affectionately call 5 on the left, 2 on the right. Islam? We give honor to all those leaders that have been touched and didn't touch themselves. Islam. Give you honor. Sister, is the atmosphere good? Yes. We had you in mind when we were setting up. Praise the Lord. That being said, today we have Sunday school and Quran class. Today we're going to start a series. I'm going to talk about this wondrous and illustrious book called the Holy Koran of the Moorish Science Temple. This is an illustrious book. When I mean illustrious, I'm not just trying to use a word that sounds slick, right? Illustrious basically means light. This is a book that brings supreme light to the one it has been revealed to. Islam?
Yes, sir.
Muhammad had a revelation. Ramadan. And over the course of 23 years, this revelation was revealed to him, even though in Surah 97, speaking of the Holy Koran, not the Holy Koran of the Moorish science of America. And I'm very careful not to say Holy Koran of Mecca. Islam? I'm very careful not to say that because all the scriptures come from Mecca. Our scriptures come from Mecca. Mecca is no more than the center of all life. The center of the earth. That's what it symbolizes. Right? There is a geographical location in the east that is called Mecca. But we must understand that only represents the spiritual Mecca. So, this is the reason why the Moors was able to take their Hajj when during the Crusades. They was able to switch their Hajj to Fez. Because they knew Islam better than the Arabians knew Islam. And they knew that Mecca wasn't a physical geographical location. It was a concept. And wherever the Meccans dwell, right? The Meccans, wherever the Meccans dwell, that place was Mecca. Wherever the Canaanites dwell, that place is the land of Canaan, the land of milk and honey. It is not a geographical location, it's a state of mind. And the land mass takes the name after the state of mind of the people that dwells there.
Teach that truth. Teach that truth, Chief.
I'm going to try. I'm going to try. So at this time, we go over to Sunday school. Please, for those who don't know the rules, raise your hand if you have a comment, if you want to share your wisdom with us, if you want to ask a question. All questions are relevant, you know. And if not, I'm going to keep on teaching. But I want you to know that we are all ears. We're listening. We want to hear from you. And we are taping, so I ain't going to have no dead space. You know what I mean? So I'm going to keep on lecturing until someone, Islam? Oh, Islam. Till someone actually raises a hand. Alright, let's start with Allah. To understand the Quran, you have to understand Allah. We've been talking about this a couple of Sundays ago. So we're not going to go too much over this too much. To understand the Quran, you have to understand Allah. Right? Anybody know what Allah is? You found it? Anybody know what Allah is?
God.
Allah means God. Okay? But that's ignomatic. Right? Which is true, but how many people know what God, who God is? God is a mystery. I see you up here. God is a mystery. Right? So just using the word God gives you no more understanding than saying the word Allah. Brother Sheikh Baby.
Islam. My understanding of Allah is mankind.
Allah is man. Sometimes man is a enigma to humankind. Brother,
yes, Brother. See, Allah to me is an acronym which describes arm, leg, arm, head, which is the physical description of man.
Islam, but we know that man is not the body nor the soul, so Allah can't be arm, leg, arm, head, because that makes him finite. Islam, we're going past the physical structure. Allah is consciousness. You can't get no higher than consciousness. Islam? So when we are searching for Allah, we're searching for Allah's realization or consciousness, God consciousness. Conscious is that thing that makes you feel alive. We talk about this every Sunday. It's that thing that makes you feel like you can never die. The one that can't be burnt is talked about in the Bible. That can't be killed is talked about in the Bhagavad Gita. That can't be drowned. It talks about it in the Upanishads. That same God, right? That consciousness, that can't be harmed, hurt, again, or killed. Islam, sheep, go ahead.
Isn't, by using the word Allah, isn't that the only word that is sufficient for man, God? Because the reason I say it is because all other words, any name for Allah is positive. It's not negative. So by using Allah, I'm saying, is it not the only sufficient word that we can think of as people consciousness that fits? Because as you say, how many people really know who Allah is? And we know that, not speaking radical, we know that Christians believe that there's a God outside himself. But by using Allah in consciousness, we know that God is within us. You know, because I'm saying, and I hate to quote the Bible a lot of times when I'm talking to Christians, I tell them to go to Genesis 5, 1 through 5. It does not say that let us create man in our own image. And I asked them who was God talking to. So that's why I'm asking about, is Allah the only way to make a lay person understand you're talking about God? Because that's like the Quran says sometimes, God Allah. So saying God and also incorporating Allah with it, to me I'm saying it's the only fit name for our Creator.
Well, that's the question. No. There are other words out there that this is powerful, this is great God Allah. Right? In fact, some of the words are for God's name are uttered in the Holy Koran. Parable. Right. Which means supreme consciousness, which is the same thing that Allah means. Allah is just, it's not an Arabic, actually, not an Arabic word. So let's not say it's an Arabic word. This word existed before Muhammad took it and made it a part of this theology. You know? But it's not, no. There are other words out there in other languages that expresses the same thing.
But that people understand.
That people understand? Yeah, there are some words out there that expresses this concept of the all that people understood, and they understood it before we understood it. Now, this is the significance of the word Allah for the Moorish Americans is that this ideal, which is ideal is the highest thought that a person can conceive. That's the difference between idea and ideal. This freed us. This freed us from mental slavery. Because prior to this, we was stuck in a Christian theology, right? And I emphasize the word theology, a system that was used to enslave us that had nothing to do with the teachings of Jesus. They used that to condition our minds to be in a state of servitude. So when Prophet Muhammad came in 1913, and then later on in the 1920s, when a person was praying to Allah, that was an indication that there was a radical change in that person. Because back in the 20s, most people wasn't uttering Allah. In the 20s. In the teens. Sunniism was only here in this country around 1914, 1915. It wasn't like a big movement. But it was unknown in those days. So when you had Asiatics of African descent screaming out Allah to the European population, they knew that was a radical change. That those people had woken up. Right? Because one of the first things they did. So this freed us from the conception of worshiping an individual man and took us to the place of worshiping the all-creator. But let's not mistake that this is the only word that signifies the all-creator. There's other words out there that signify the all-creator. So they're all the same. All right. So when we talk about Allah, we talk about God consciousness. This book here is a book that instructs us on how to find or realize God consciousness. Right? If you're made in the image and likeness of God, you must start acting like what? God. And don't be afraid to say that. For those who are afraid to say that, they are far away from God consciousness. You must be one with that consciousness. Allah is truth, as it says in the questionnaire. What is truth?
Truth is all.
What is all?
All is love.
What does that mean? You just went around in a circle.
Truth is the only thing that changes not.
What does that mean?
That means it is infinite.
What does that mean?
That means it has no beginning nor any ending.
What does that mean to you?
It means that I was always, when it speaks in our Koran about the everlasting of the past and to the never-ending days to come.
So what does that mean? Break that down. Give me some practical information that I can use so we can understand what infinity means.
Okay, that there was never a time that I, man, not necessarily as you had, taught a few weeks back, that I, man, has never existed. I have always existed. Okay, even in the physical sense, all right, I may not have always looked this way, yet I was always present, okay, in the universe, either as a physical entity or as a spiritual or soul entity.
Okay, let me ask you this question. Very good. You answer well.
It's
That's not a test. You answer well. I just want to pull out of you what I want you to say. Islam? Now, what is the significance of knowing that Allah is truth? And truth is ought. It's the reason why our prophet, beloved prophet, gave us those succession of questions, of names. Right? What is the significance of all this? Because we know all of it is Allah. But every time he throws a new word in there, he gives you a new vantage point of seeing this God consciousness from. A new vestibule to see it from, to get a better understanding. Remember, Allah on his own is a very ignomatic term. Right? So he has to use more tools. Words are tools for understanding, tools for the mind to understand. He has to use more tools to get you to understand deeper levels of what the nature of Allah is. That's all you're saying.
Well, I didn't, but can you put the one down?
Oh, what's wrong?
But I do have something.
So she just.
I was going to say that the significance of all that for me is that I am one with Allah, and since Allah is art, I'm art. And the truth for me is that knowing how to evaluate Allah and his being, right? So that I can know how to evaluate myself and carrying the attributes that Allah carries.
It's not very good.
Yes, Lord.
Yes, it will. Now, what I'm going to ask you is, you said this word, what is this?
Truth.
Nah, it is true. But I want something else other than, you know what I want something else. I want something else other than what's in the questionnaire.
Oneness. Because there's no two. The two equal one. Because if we are made in image after likeness, there's no me and Allah. There's only Allah and you. So that makes me one with. Art means everything. I understand. Art means all.
Okay. So what's your name?
Erica.
Sister Erica. And she's brand new. I do brand new people walk in, so. Have you ever seen this word before?
I think I have. I thought it was not though, with an N in front of it. I've never seen this art.
Without the end.
Right.
Right. No. We do have in our literature, naught. We get into that. So it is, but, and I asked her that because we need to be able to explain it to her,
Yeah.
but she understands what we're talking about as Moorish scientists. You know, let me just do this. Alt, the root word of alt, A-I-W. That's the root word, right? Which is actually Sanskrit, right? Which means life force. Did you know that? Life force, right? Islam.
Yeah, it is Sanskrit. I sort of kind of looked it up, and it means the all of life force. So it encompasses, when it said it encompasses what that, it said that which encompasses everything.
the scientist you are, you beat me to the punch because that's the other half of this one.
Right.
That basically means everything, and this means the life force. I was getting to that, but praise Allah. So added together, it means everything is made of life force. Alt means life force, everything being made of life force being everything, basically. So this room, the floor, it's all made of this substance that you can't quite define, but it's a substance that gave birth to everything. See, it gives a new spin now because now he's telling you truth is not saying honest words. Right? Truth is actually a substance so fine that the fleshly eyes can't see.
Islam, that's right.
This is what he's saying, right? He's saying that all living things are made of this all. This mysterious substance that can't be measured by instruments, that can't be confined by the mind, but everything is made out of it. And when you see objects in the world, don't see the things that they been made into by the combination of the four elements, which came out of this all. The four elements, fire, water, earth, and air, came out of this universal force, right? What we have a tendency to do is we define the things by the combination of fire, water, earth, and air. And I think on Friday I gave an example of, I asked the Moors, what was the difference between, y'all remember this? What was the difference between this and this? And I said, what is this and what is this? They said it was a veil. He said it right the first time because he'd been in the temple so long, he knew what I was looking for. I know you knew more. But I asked, what is this and what is this? They said, a candle holder and a bell. And I said, both are made out of brass. That's the difference. See, if this brass is synonymous with that mysterious substance that we call art, that everything is made of, right? And we say it's the brass, right? But we pay attention to the shape and the name that we give it. We say, oh, that's a bell. Oh, that's a candle holder. Both of them are brass. Oh, that's the Moorish flag. That's the murder flag. Both of them are made out of cloth. That's what we do with the physical world. That's how we separate the physical world from Allah. That's how we associate partners with the universal creative consciousness because we are looking at the different usage of the different things in the manifesting world, how things are used, the chair, the table, human beings, plants, ants, whatever. We look at, the different usage and different life forms, but we don't look at that universal substance that all life forms are made out of and judge it from that and say everything is one. I'm not going to be blinded no more. I'm seeing with the eyes of holy breath that everything is made out of the same substance. Truth is this substance, right? And for this reason, and we said this on Sunday, you can't tell nobody the truth. You can't. How can you tell? Truth has to be realized by the individual person. Truth is what? All is. Can you give somebody a lie? I get you one. I want everybody in this room to realize a lie. That's a desire of mine, but I can't make you realize it. You got to realize it on your own. I only can give you the tools for you to realize it on your own. So truth is Allah. You can't give truth to anybody no more than you can give Allah to anybody. That's something that has to be earned on your own. Right? It's a mistake when we say, well, I'm telling you the truth. You think, you know what I'm saying? But these are things that we say in everyday language because the English language is not a spiritual language. So we're stuck with the phrases that we have. But you have to start deprogramming yourself to really speak on truth. Brother Monica, you had your hand.
Oh yeah. But man, see, Miss Love, I want to backtrack a little bit of what, but I've been trying to grasp this, and I thought I had somewhat of an understanding, but the thing about the made part, right? When I read our Koran, it says that that which has been made will be unmade. So the made thing is the illusion. And then it says man was made in the image and after the likeness of Allah. But I'm thinking that the physical man is made man, because in our questionnaire, the question one says, who made you?
Right.
And it says, Allah. So I'm like, well, you can't make a spirit. Spirit man was always. Now that's the part of man that I'm talking about, that's of the everlasting past, which is never in the days to come. But, so when I said that Allah to me meant the acronym arm, leg, head, which is the physical representation of man. So when it says that man was made in the image and after likeness of Allah, well, that's the part of man that was made. The arm, leg, head aspect of man. Now, I want to know if you have another understanding or different understanding of the made part than I have, because what part of man are you saying has been made?
I never said that man was made.
Okay.
I never said that. And I'm going to back that up once we get into the Quran.
Okay.
From the finite point of view, man appears to have been made. From the finite point of view. What does that mean? The finite point of view is an illusion, don't exist. Right? The only point of view that exists, right, is Allah's point of view. Which spirit man and Allah are one. Right? So, but you beat me to the punch, like, bro, you beat me. We're going to get to that. That's why I got these notes. I'm trying to plumb this line, right? So I don't get off course. But we're going to really get to that because this is all going to culminate into chapter 1. Right? But you have to understand.
I was going to say that the word consciousness, with all the stuff that you're speaking about, it has a big ring to it. So I was thinking maybe if we could put it down there on the board real small or something, somewhere, because all of it ties back into consciousness, because you can have all this information and still walk around in an unconscious state, demonstrating on this flesh degree, you know what I'm saying? And your mind won't elevate to a higher level because you're unconscious. You won't tie it into your conscious thinking.
That's what that symbol signifies. It has an all-seeing eye, it has Allah written up on it because Allah is a realization. Right? It's like an eye's a representation of sight. Right? Consciousness. Allah is consciousness. You don't have to go nowhere or do anything to commune with Him. If you have consciousness, which the fact is proven by the fact that you're here and you're in this meeting and you cognize what I'm saying, you're hearing me or seeing me, or some of you are even feeling me, right? And because of that, all that's possible because of consciousness. The 5 senses are no more than 5 different modes of consciousness. This is how consciousness communicates with the physical world. So, you have consciousness by the fact that you have 5 physical senses. That is a lie. That is a lie. Right? You can't kill, burn, and that is a lie. This book is let's get into this. This book is a revelation. It's important to understand what a lie is because this is what this book is trying to bring to your attention. This whole book is endeavoring to bring Allah and man together. That makes sense? That's what all holy scriptures, not just this book, but all holy scriptures are doing that. Some of them just take the long route. Some of them have been diluted. So, it makes man even further away from God consciousness. But all scriptures are trying to get you into God consciousness. Islam, if you are in a state of misery, you're not in God consciousness, you're in man consciousness.
Right.
If you're unhappy, you're not in God consciousness, you are in your own individual consciousness. Islam? So we're trying to get to that universal consciousness. Now, the Prophet is able to call this book the Holy Koran. Alright, I'm going to put this on the board. Somebody tell me what Quran means. We talk about this in here. Islam. State your name every time you raise your hand.
Islam, my name is Faisal on the Prophet. My My name is Brother T. Holton Bay, for the record.
Owens?
Holton
Holton.
Bay.
I kept saying, he said Holton.
Holton Bay.
What that is?
Holton.
He's a member. He's been here long enough. I should know his name. Well, Holton there. He's long.
Holton Hill, right?
Yeah.
Bay.
Hold it back.
Bay.
Okay, got you back.
From a study source that I had, people always translate the word Quran into an English term. But I've learned that over the years, the term means the recitation, the application. And dealing with recitation and application of the Quran is making it applicable and applicable to the nature and the consciousness of man. So the word to me actually means to recite,
Yes,
the recitation of it.
got you back. Yes, no.
Or read.
Or read. When you say read, that's
Yeah.
you study or read.
That's the reason why in the Holy Quran,
No.
I don't want to say that because it makes it sound like this Quran is not from Mecca. That's why I don't like saying that. But the Holy Quran, when I say from this point forward, when I say Holy Quran, I'm talking about the one in the East. When I say the Holy Quran, the Moorish science of America, I'm talking about this Quran. The Holy Quran in it states, read. Keep telling Muhammad, read, read, read. Right? And he said, I can't read. Right? He was telling the holy breath in the person of Gabriel, right? Because Gabriel, Gabriel is also in the Christian theology. Gabriel was the one, the angel that came to Mary, also the one that came to Elizabeth.
Right.
Also the angel that also came to Muhammad.
John.
He's the one always around, right? And he's also in the Moorish science of America under the name of Holy Breath. Gabriel basically is the personification of Holy Breath. So when Gabriel came to him, when the Holy Breath came to Muhammad, he told him to read or recite. He said he couldn't, right? But he wasn't talking about reciting a physical book.
Right.
He was telling him to recite the law that was already in him, right? So kindly has he united thy duty to thy nature, that obedience to his precepts is happiness to thyself. Now, what does that have to do? In Surah 97, that is a surah that tells how the Quran, the Holy Quran, descended, right, to Muhammad, right? It descended to Muhammad on the night, they call it the night of predestination, or in some translations, the night of glory, right? Right. After fasting for 40 days, like Jesus did, he fasted for 40 days, and in the last couple of days of his fast, he got this revelation, this recitation. But it is stated from the Muslim scholars that he did not receive it, the Quran, in the mind. He received it in his flesh. Now think about that for a minute. Very profound statement. This is what the Sufis also teach. He didn't receive it in the mind. He didn't have the Quran in the mind. That's why he couldn't read it. Because he was saying that I don't have the intellect to recite this. And the Holy Breath was saying, yes, you do, because it's hardwired in your nature.
DNA is yours.
It's in your DNA. And what's so significant of that? Muhammad is emblematic of every man, woman, and child on earth. So the connection is, when the prophet Noah in the chapter of religion says, so kindly has he united that duty, the law, what you need to do to thy nature, your body, that obedience to his precepts, obedience to his laws is happiness to thyself. So if you want to know, if you're going according to spiritual law, you really don't have to read a book. Just analyze your own nature. If you got a headache, you transgress Allah's law. If you're sick, you transgress Allah's law. And so over the course of 23 years, the Quran was recited to Muhammad, right? Why? Because he didn't have it in the mind, it was in his body. So certain earthly conditions over the course of 23 years, right? His body had to go through certain earthly conditions that will bring out the verses. See, he learned from going through certain things, and then the revelation came to him because it was his body, spiritual soul, right, is the Quran. So by going through all over the course of 23 years, even though it states in Surah 97 that the Quran descended on him in all its glory and all its truth all at once. But he didn't recite it all at once. It was hardwired in his body all at once. It was there. Islam?
Islam.
There's a, I want to read a statement if I can from bear with me. This is a statement from a middle, anybody heard of Tamahada?
Who?
Tamahada. Anybody heard of this? Well, this is actually a spiritual interpretation of Islam done by the Persians, Islam, back in the Middle Ages. And this is a portion out of this book. I'm going to read one portion of it, a small portion of it.
What's the name of that book?
Tamhidat. There is a Quran beyond. Oh, no. Since you are a man of Nosis, draw your heart hither, and know that if by Quran you understand the paper, ink, and the words, that is not the Quran. There is a Quran beyond this one, which is the sign, which this one is the sign of. Also, Muhammad, peace be upon him, his hands and feet and body. But that is not Muhammad. Muhammad is beyond that as a source of mercy. Peace be unto him. So he said, if you're talking about the Quran, the paper, the ink, the words, that's not the Quran. Right? That is only a representation of the real Quran, something that we always pound in here day in and day out. That's why I'm very careful when I say call the Holy Quran of the East the Holy Quran of Mecca, because that is not the Holy Quran of Mecca. The real Holy Quran of Mecca is in the body of Muhammad, and they say here that Muhammad is not flesh and bone or body. Muhammad is an idea of every righteous human being. So if the Quran of Mecca, or the true Quran of Mecca, we can say that, of the highest self, Islam, came to Muhammad, right, and it was downloaded all at once, and then when it was in his nature, so he could read from it, you can do the same thing. You're supposed to do the same thing, right? This does not become a recitation to you until it is revealed to you. Every time you receive, every person that receives the Holy Quran, this book has to be revealed to you, not just Muhammad. Because if this book is not revealed to you the way it was revealed to Muhammad, you still don't have the Quran.
That's right.
Don't think because you paid $5 for this that you got the Quran. That's what we think. Because I paid my $5. I got my Quran. You know, someone's put fancy covers all on it. You know, you can't read it while you're in the bathroom. More, you know what I'm saying? I mean, you heard that before. You can't put it in the bathroom. I got Qurans in my bathroom. I got it in my kitchen. You know what I mean? Sometimes the bathroom is a place where I can concentrate the best.
Right.
Got a house full of people in there, you know. You know, but I hear more say that nonsense. You defile the Quran when you do that. You know, I mean, my thoughts have to be in tune with the Quran at all times. I think that's more important.
That's right.
So you better leave it out the bathroom, and that time of day, I might be thinking my worst thoughts in the bathroom. You know what I'm saying? I might need it there the most.
Yeah.
Especially if you had one of the wild Friday nights. We all know we've been in that bathroom begging God, God, you get me out of this. I swear to God, I ain't gonna do that again. You know what I'm saying? We need the Quran the most up in there when we get there, you know, but that's because they don't really understand what the true Quran is. He said, he breathed, I'm paraphrasing the Holy Quran of Moorish to America. He communicated to thee the principles of knowledge. Right? He communicated to you the principles of knowledge, which means that he breathed in you all the knowledge that you need to have already. It's predetermined. That's why that day is called the day of predestination. It's already predetermined. You just need life situations sometimes to bring it out verse by verse by verse. If you want it done quicker than 23 years, right? If you want it to come out quicker, then meditate. Islam? Steal yourself. Read the Quran in Mecca. Oh, here, Mecca. Islam?
Islam.
All right. Any comments, questions? We move into this illustrious book.
And could I say, what you just
So what you can say,
said,
bro?
in chapter 26, all instructed unity, and you know the first verse is gifts, you understand? Because like you said, just having this Quran, whatever I paid for it, just having, what's going to be revealed to me is known only by Allah. You know, because I read 24/7 doesn't mean that I get, because every time I read that same verse, next week, I get something totally different. Well, I got this one.
And you know why? And for those, it's 1:48, so we got about 40 minutes left. That's how much time y'all have to leave. You know why? That's because this book, as great as it is only a symbol of the real Quran. Right? Because if it was the truth in the words, you wouldn't have to keep reading it over and over again and getting something different. Right? That's because it's not the book is changing. You are getting closer to the truth that's in you. Right? So always remember that. These are no more than reflections of you. As I said on Friday, this book is a mirror for you, for your own nature, for the mind back.
Yes, it's not. And you know, it just lets me know that when you know, welcome, you know, you know, the way he came into his enlightenment or his awakening was through meditation. You know, he had no records or no books to read. You know what I mean? He simply meditated and allowed himself to be connected with what you call the consciousness, right? Or the all. You know what I mean? So when they talk about the Akashic records and those ascended masters who have been able to tap into those Akashic records, right? It's the same thing that we're doing, just not aware of. You know, it's not strange that, you know, on the tomb of Tutankhamun, you know what I mean, that they would find in the glyphs, you know what I mean, the name of Muhammad. You know what I mean? As you said, that Muhammad, that name, you know, even the word Quran, you know what I mean, even the word Muslim or Islam. These are words that far predate, you know what I'm saying, the religion of Islam that Muhammad established in Arabia. You know what I mean? And why is it that when one went through in Sumeria, that those who were initiated in the temples of Kuta, you know what I'm saying? I mean, this is long before, you know, Muhammad was thought of. You know what I mean? They were given the title Muslim. You know what I mean? That the Sumerian word Islam means Lord of the earth. You know what I mean? So these are not. This is nothing new, and the way by which you said Muhammad, you know, came by the what's in the Quran. You know what I'm saying? Was through him tapping into those Akashic records. You know what I mean? So Levi Dowling wasn't the first one to do it. You know what I mean? And just because, you know, what's in our Quran, you know what I mean, is so similar to what's in the Quran Gospel, doesn't that mean that the Prophet Noble Drew Ali copied it? You know what I'm saying? He had the abilities to do the same thing Dowling did. And any other prophet, Confucius, you know what I'm saying? He didn't have any books either. You know what I'm saying? But he was able to tap into those Akashic records to connect with the all of life. Islam,
Islam, praise Allah. I mean, as we stated earlier, there's really no prophet that scholars' jobs, that's the teacher's job, to preserve the teachings of a particular master that manifests on earth. Islam. All right, let's go to chapter 1, found on page 4. And remember, this is revealing God consciousness, Allah consciousness to us, and helping us to realize who we are. It says on the very first page, well, on the cover page, on the back side of the cover page, it says, know thyself and Allah. The genealogy of Jesus, life and works of Jesus in India, Europe, and Africa, in the land of Egypt. You know, and is a connecting word. It doesn't mean adding on as an addition, like 1 and 1 is 2. Right? So it's adding on 2 parts of a phrase and making them 1. So it says, know thyself and Allah. So when you know yourself, you're going to know what? Allah. Because Allah, man, are one. Huh? It's like when you're trying to understand D.C., you ain't from Washington, D.C., right? You understand D.C. from its microcosm. What is D.C.'s microcosm? A map. Islam, right? You can look at a map of any city and familiarize yourself with that city versus trying to navigate yourself through the vast city and just drive and get lost.
Right.
Right? Or you can familiarize yourself with the microcosm of that city, which is a map, right? And you can find everything. Think of man as the map of God. Right? You can try to understand God by going into his vastness, which most people do. Or you can understand God by going into yourself and reading it for yourself. Islam, chapter 1. The creation and the fall of man. Very interesting chapter. Very, very interesting chapter. Islam. Before I'm going to talk about this title, but let's go into the first verse, or first part of this chapter. It says, time never was when man was not. And let me stop there. Let me harp on grammar. And everybody know here, and I'm a stickler for grammar when it comes to reading, because our ancient fathers, when they issued out their scriptures, they also issued out manuscripts telling you how to read it. They had books on grammar. Grammar is a science. It's a science that is lost in modern day time. You've been in the school system, you know that. It's a science that is lost. So you have a lot of people who don't understand their own scriptures because they don't know the science of grammar. So thus they need somebody else to interpret it for them, priest, preacher, what have you, because they can't do it on their own because they don't understand grammar. That's why when people read the King James Version of the Bible, they have such a hard time understanding it, right? Because the grammatical rules in those times are different than the rules we use, or lack thereof of rules that we use today. Islam? Now, as I said, that the ancient seers and prophets and scholars, when they issued out a book, they also put forth another book that gave you the rules and understanding the language. He fitted us with language to what?
To improve our society.
He fitted us with language to improve our society. He says in the Holy Koran of Moorish of America, Allah gave us language to improve our society. Our society at large is not being improved because we're not using the language well. That can be proven. That's a whole nother science. I mean, what is laws but language? So powerful that they even use a dead language to convey their laws. Latin. So you wouldn't understand it. Doctors write prescriptions in what? Latin. So you wouldn't understand it. As long as you only getting berries and juices. That's what you get. Berries and juices. Islam.
Go back to the words we address ourselves with black, Negro, color. That's another language issue. We don't understand how those words are used multiple ways against us. We just think of them as a culture, which really not.
Islam. Time never was when man was. I said that because it says time never was, and then there's a comma. It says time never was, and there's a comma. And then it says when man was not. Right? And what inspired this lesson today, I said on Sunday, I had a more tell me that how I was defining that phrase, time never was when man was not, I was way off basis with it. He said, because in context, that's not what it's saying in context. Right? And he wasn't wrong that if you in context, it means something different. But when you're reading something in context, that means that you got to read the supporting sentences that's before it or behind it in order to get a good understanding of it. So you need the sentence either before it or after it to support it. That's when you read it in context, right? But a comma is a break, right? There's different reasons why you put a comma in a sentence. In this case, the comma is there because it's isolating the main topic of the opening phrase. So whatever comes behind the comma is the main topic of discussion. What is behind the comma? So the main topic is about the existence of man. Right? What comes before it is just candy. Right? There's other things on top of it that give you a better understanding. But the topic we're talking about is the existence of man. So he says, time never was when man was. Then I just said man was not. What's behind that word?
A period.
A period.
That means something that's precise or definite or.
So this is where the brother was wrong because he didn't understand grammar. He said, you ain't reading the context. I said, brother, what does a period mean? It's the ending of a thought, which means that the sentence can stand on its own even without what comes behind it or before it. Now, what comes behind it is just extra stuff, but you can erase everything else in this chapter, and time never was when man was not can stand on its own. It don't need no support from anything else. That's what a period means. Now, what does that mean to you when you read it? That means that that's the end of a thought that's so powerful that it can stand on its own, right? So now, at this moment, I want us to communicate and talk about the phrase, time never was when man was not, and all its implications in your life. See, when you read, you're supposed to stop and you're supposed to reflect.
That's right.
That's what you're supposed to do. That's what that period means. Stop, pause, and reflect. This is how you get good reading comprehension. When you have kids, you teach your kids how to read like that.
Right.
Don't read like this. Time never was when man was not, and life of man ain't time began, and time will come when it will end, and those of God cannot be circumcised. That's how most people read. They just keep going on and on and on. They never stop and reflect. Right? The prophets who created the scripture intended for you to stop at that phrase right there because they want you to stop and reflect. This is not like you read the novel. This is a holy scripture. So that means Allah wanted you to stop and think about. He's saying that there was never a time when man didn't exist. That he's always been here. And he will always be. So that means that you was here in 1774. You was here when Jesus walked this earth. You was here when Muhammad was here. Right? Later on, it's going to tell you how to gain that knowledge back. Right now, it sounds so unbelievable. But when you talk about consciousness, nothing is impossible for consciousness. Consciousness by nature have to be what? Consciousness by nature have to be what? Conscious. I mean, come on. It can't be anything else but conscious. That means if it's unconscious, it's not conscious. Awareness got to be what? Aware. So that means that there is no ending to consciousness.
Right.
If you say I'm conscious now, I was born in 1974. So I was conscious starting in 1974, and then up until I pass away. But before 1974, I was unconscious. Then that's not conscious. You have to be conscious all the time by the nature of consciousness. And all it can do is be conscious. You don't know nothing else. So I was always conscious. Now, was my consciousness always occupying, animating this body? No. No. But he's going to tell us that that's not man. The body is not man. It's not like he's not talking about that.
Right.
But there's other things. That there was never a time when you wasn't around. So all your fearing of death, fearing of sickness, disease, grieving over loved ones not being in your presence. And I say not being in your presence because you just can't see them, right? All that stuff dissipates. I'm not going to tell you how to meditate on that, but you're supposed to stop. And this is how I used that last week. I said that also means that man existed on other planets. Yeah. Now, what does that mean? Because the Earth is only 4.3 billion years old. So if man always existed, that means when before the Earth was formed, he had to live on what? Another planet. This is only 4.3 billion years old. This is not new news. Our ancestors in all the scriptures always talked about this. It's the European etiquette that taught you not to believe in this.
Right.
Right? It's even in the theology of Christianity. This is what they call heaven. They only describe in different spheres, in different places that the consciousness go to once it leaves this body or leave this earth. Once all your lessons are learned here, right? You got to go someplace else and learn it right because you're not going to come back to the same conditions that you already conquered.
Right.
What's the use in that? The universe is very efficient. It's not going to bring you back here if you conquered everything that you had to conquer. You got to move on to another grade, another civilization, another culture that's going to give you even more learning by going through certain things. Why did Allah send Jesus to this
earth? Come on,
I know you with that.
Teach that
We already know you with that.
Teach that
You know,
truth, shit.
but they think that you're crazy when you talk like that. They also think that you're crazy when you say that man can't die. Right? Before you came into the temple, you thought it was crazy to believe that man can't die. But now it's common knowledge it's more science that man can't die. Right? One day it's be common knowledge that it's man on other planets. You heard it here first in 52. Right? In the future. Islam? Just think about how hard it was to grasp that first concept. One day, that's going to be everyday knowledge to you. He said, the triune Allah breathed forth and 7 spirits stood before his face. Right? Then he said, these 7 spirits moved on the face of boundless space. And what are the 7 spirits? Protoplasm, earth, plant, man, angel, and cherubim. So there's protoplasm, earth, plant, man, angel, cherubim, all over the face of boundless space. You get all this from time that was when man was not. Mm-hmm. And for those who don't go deep into this, they sell themselves short. They say it's 7 higher interpretations to any spiritual verse. That's what they say. 7 higher. Then he goes, he says, if anybody else want to, before I move on, we can, let's not make it quick. When we
Very quick. I just want to say more that
what we call a 2-minute drill.
2 minutes. I'll give you 30 seconds more. This whole chapter is nothing but a microcosm, right, of the Bhagavad Gita, right? When I first read the Bhagavad Gita, right, man, that's all it's saying. Chapter 1.
Let me read it to you, bro. If I can, if I will. If I can, I should say. You were never born. You will never die. You have never changed. You can never change. Unborn, eternal, immutable, immortal. You do not die when the body dies. That's the Bhagavad Gita.
Here you go. Okay, boy, you see it already.
There was never a time, the Bible Gita said there was never a time when you did not exist. There was never a time when I didn't exist. That's Krishna talking to Arjuna. It was Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita is the representation of the highest self. He said there was never a time when I didn't exist. There's never a time when you didn't exist. There's never a time when these men didn't exist. He said we always existed. Now when you understand the Bhagavad Gita, now read this, it says time there was when man was not. The Bhagavad Gita was written 2,500 years ago. And they had this understanding 2,500 years ago. He said, there's never a time when you did not exist. Do not believe that with this flesh you die.
Teach that shit. Teach it.
No, boy, they teach it.
Yeah.
I'm only, as the grand sheet say, I'm only repeating it.
Pass it on. Pass it on, Mo. That's right. Yeah.
Islam. If life, what I was going to say, it was another, there's a concept, before we move off time that was when man was not. And that may be the only thing we get to today, but that's how you're supposed to do scriptures. Anybody know what a Mahabharata is?
A Mahabharata? The Mahabharata?
No. That's Mahabharata.
Okay, Mahabharata.
Mahabharata. Let's see if I can spell it right. Mahavakya. Mahabharata. This basically means, it's a Sanskrit word for great phrase or great saying. In the Vedas, they have 4, and in some places, some people count 5. But they have 4 Mahavakyas in it. And one of them is Brahman and I are one. So the concept of a Mahavakya is that you repeat this Mahavakya over and over and over and over again, and you become transformed into that which you are repeating. The phrase is so powerful that it transforms your consciousness. That's the concept of Mahavakya. There's 4 of them in the Vedas. There are Mahavakyas in here, and time never was when man was not is one. Right? That whenever you're going through, if you remind yourself that there was never a time when you didn't exist, watch how your problems dissipate. Watch how things seem so petty. If you don't believe, hold this chapter, go to chapter 11. Go to chapter 11. We're going to go through the power of this Holy Koran.
Yes. Yes.
If everybody did say Islam? Everybody did. Now go to verse 18. Are you there?
Yep.
It's on page 19 for those that's the big book. Then go to verse 18. Y'all there? Everybody read verse 18 out loud.
That which begins.
Now, well, in the big book, I guess you all are 17. Y'all read 17. Everybody else read, got the big book, read 18. Read together.
Time never was when man was not.
Whoa, sound like the same statement that's in chapter 1. Right? So when the mysterious brother, young master, chastised me for extracting that verse and taking it out of the context of chapter 1, right? And I told him, I said, brother, that verse can stand on its own without the support of all the others in chapter 1. And then I took him to chapter 11 where he made it stand alone. Time never was when man was not. Prophets say, every word I speak is spirit, and you better take heed. What if he say something twice? You better take double heed. There are 5, and I went through it. There are 5 phrases in this Quran that's uttered twice. 5. And time never was when man was not is one of them. That's a Mahavakya. Right? Why? Because the rest of the chapter is doing nothing but explaining time never was when man was not. That's all it's doing. It's opening up. Do you know in the Vedas that some of the Vedas, the opening word or verse is so powerful that the name of that particular Veda is named after the first verse or word. Because the opening words or any scriptures is always powerful. The opening of the Holy Koran, the Muslims use it as their prayer. Am I correct? The opening of the Holy Quran, they use it as a prayer because it's that powerful, because it opens up the scripture. Well, time never was when man was not is the first phrase that's uttered in the Holy Quran and the Moorish science of America. You Moors better take heed. And he said it twice. It's a healing balm for those who know how to use it. A healing balm. Islam. You want to know the other 4? that's Indian, that's repeated twice?
Come on, shit.
If y'all don't want to know it, just let me know. You want to know what's saying? It's fine.
I know it. Come on.
Time was when man was not. Adon Mushki coming, which means Kubi, which means Lord Jesus or Lord Master arise. Allah and man are one. Prepare, O Israel, prepare to meet your king. This is actually said 4 times. John said it 4 times. Prepare, O Israel, prepare to meet your king. Remember, these phrases have a spiritual purport to it. And the last one is, oh no, it's not. So that's, prepare, O Israel, prepare to meet your king. Allah and man are one. Imagine using that as a mantra. And for those who don't understand Allah, just say God. God and man are one. God and man are one. God and man are one. Imagine repeating that in your mind over and over again as you work, as you drive, as you play. And then one day you're going to realize the oneness if you keep saying it.
Islam.
Islam.
That's right.
Time there was when man was not in peace. Oh, that's other. Peace. Peace on earth. Goodwill to man. And you got to say it like that. Because every time he mentions this, he said the exact same way. Peace. Peace on earth. Goodwill to men. Right? If you walk into a situation where it seems tumultuous, or you walk into a situation where there's about to be some type of friction, mentally say peace. Peace on earth. Goodwill to men. And mean it from the bottom of your heart. Watch how you dissipate everything in the room. Watch how the conditions change in it. These are words of power that's in your Quran. I mean, do you understand what you have? Do we all really know what we have? Islam? We might have any comments when we move on. All right. Well, I know you got to agree, though. Yeah. I feel you vibrate, huh?
I'll just catch one more and then I'm going. I told I'd be here about 20 hours.
No, that's not. If life of man at any time begin, a time will come when it will end. What does that mean? I mean, we pretty much talked about it. But if you want to add anything with it, he said, if life of man at any time begin, a time will come when it will end. What the ancient forefathers are using right now is the power of discrimination. Not reason, right? Because reason is a mental faculty that compares a past experience with a present experience. In spirituality, there is no experience. These are things you haven't experienced and you have nothing to reason with. But you have the faculty of discrimination, which in our book is called understanding, which most Moorish scholars misunderstand that word when they say, I have a portion of understanding. That's not what that verse is saying. Right? But that's a whole nother chapter we're going to get to. There's only one understanding, you know, it's not portioned out. Now, the gifts that understanding gives when you use it is portioned out. It says the gifts of the understanding. Right. V, which means an article that means one. Gave by the ground. V means a definite article, which means one. Right. So we have a misunderstanding thinking that you got a portion. I hear people say, that's your portion of understanding, that's your portion, that's your portion, that's your. We all are born with the faculty of understanding. But we all don't use the faculty of understanding. That's why people have different portions of gifts. Because sometimes you use it, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you use it, sometimes you don't. Some people don't even use it at all. Right? But understanding is not reading comprehension. It's not what that is. Well, I understand this verse. That's not what understanding is. In fact, if you go to, what is that? Is that chapter 10? More scholars, when understanding is talked about.
Yeah. Oh, we were talking about Jesus spoke on the unity of Allah and man to the Hindus.
Is that it?
The minorities.
Somebody get me to that chapter, please.
Oh, page 17, Mo.
Page 17.
Yeah.
Islam.
What verse is that, Mo?
No.
That's
I'm
not-
looking for when he defines wisdom. And what do you have to say of wisdom?
Oh, that's chapter
That's
7.
chapter
Oh,
7.
7. Oh, wisdom, whatever you say.
Jesus the Lord.
Yeah.
Jesus the Lord speak on me.
It is the consciousness. Oh, okay, yeah. The
Yes,
understanding is in there, yeah, Mo. Yeah.
All right, it's on page 13,
Mm-hmm.
and we will go down to
Understanding is right.
verse 19.
Verse 9.
Again, Lamas asks, understand what have you to say? And Jesus said, it is the rock on which man builds himself. It is the gnosis of the alt, that word alt again, and of naught, of falsehood and of truth. It is the knowledge of the lower self, the sensing of the powers of man himself. Woo! That's way beyond reading comprehension. When people say, well, that's my portion of understanding. He said, it is the rock on which man builds himself, which means that it is your foundation, right? That you are born here with a foundation. And everything else is built on that foundation. Islam? Am I making sense? I'm not trying to go too deep in this, but it all goes back to karma. Everybody's born with a certain mental disposition, like my child. She's born with a certain mental disposition that she has earned in past lives. Her predetermination, based on her past deeds. We come back with that as being part of our rock that we build ourselves on. Islam, whether it's good or bad. Some people need to rebuild their foundation. Islam. He says, it is the rock on which man builds himself. This rock is what every man judges everything they come in encounter with. You'll understand. Whatever it is, you judge the world from that understanding. Whatever literature you come across, you read it based on your rock. Right? It is the gnosis. What is gnosis? Intuition.
Intuition.
Right? This is nothing that's learned.
That's right.
We know that reading comprehension is learned.
Yeah.
Right? This is the inner truth of things.
Innate.
The first-hand experience being what you know. Right? So understand it's something that you have experienced, that you know from an intimate relationship. Beyond reading comprehension. You understand what I'm saying? You can't get this knowledge from reading. You can't get gnosis or intuition from reading. Or from somebody telling it to you. Only through meditation and going through experience can you get gnosis. Can you get understanding. Right? Yes. That's the highest faculty of the mind. He said, willing, reason, and understanding. Right? These are the actions of the soul. And the soul is the mind. Psyche is the mind. Right? I hope I'm not moving too fast. Islam. So these are the actions of, I love Brother Bible Bank because he got this excitement. Islam.
The truth is the same,
Islam. Islam. But these are, understand, is the highest faculty of the human mind. Did you know that? Thinking, willing, reason, and understanding. Thinking, willing, reasoning, and understanding are the faculties of the soul or the mind. Of these four, understanding is the highest. Because understanding is what takes you from the carnal world to the spiritual.
That's why. Thank you.
Reasoning cannot take you that way. Reasoning is like a mouse in a wheel trying to get out of the cage by going and crawling, you know what I mean? Because in reasoning, you need something that you have experienced to compare it with. If you have nothing to compare it with, you can't rationalize. Right? I touched the stove one day, burnt my skin. I ain't gonna touch the stove again because I know I burnt my skin before when I touched it. That's reason. But in order to have that experience, I have to burn my skin. Right? I drank too much last week. I threw up, blah, blah, blah. I ain't gonna drink no more. Or I told somebody you shouldn't drink. Why? Because it's gonna make you sick. That's because either I saw somebody get sick myself or I experienced it myself. Right? That's reasoning. Understanding comes up with this information without prior experience. It's the rock on which man builds himself. He said it's the inner knowledge of alt that substance that everything is made of, truth. That thing that don't changes. No matter how the world flirts before your face, no matter how the world try to do the sleight of hand, do something over here to catch your attention over here, but it's really doing something over there, you still know what's really going on what's behind his back, right? That's understanding all. That's knowing truth. The truth don't change. No matter how the world tries to distract me, I know the truth behind the matter. Islam?
Islam.
Understanding is that. So, you have to, this is what we're talking about when we speak on understanding. Having an understanding for these teachings. Having an understanding for the scriptures. Islam? Praise God. Let's get back. We took a little pit stop. We only have 10 minutes for us. Y'all bear with me for 10 minutes? Islam. It says, if life of man at any time began, a time will come when it will end. Oh, and what we're saying is that's using what they call discrimination, which is understanding, right? Being able to decipher truth and know. It says the Nosis of the alt and the naught. So you have the discrimination is being able to discriminate from one thing and the other. That's what discrimination means, to sift between one thing and the other, the mental faculty of doing that. Understanding is that mental faculty that allows you to discriminate against spiritual things and worldly things without prior experience. Right? So he used a phrase, if life of man at any time began, a time will come when it will end. That makes sense. I don't have to have no experience with that to know that that appeals to my understanding. Right? Because it hardwired into you, you know that to be the truth. No one got to tell you that. You know that. If something started, it has to end. My 8-year-old daughter knows that. She might not know the fancy words to put it in, the fancy phrases to put it in, but she understands that. Right? A 5-year-old child understands that. It's already hardwired in their nature. They don't know how to express it, but they know it. Right? And then what happens, we teach them or what have you with our ways, and then they start thinking like we think.
Corrupt that.
The thoughts of Allah cannot be circumscribed. So now you have the ability to go back and put, if life of man at any time began, a time will come when it will end. You can associate that with the first phrase, time never was when man was not. The thoughts of Allah cannot be circumscribed. No finite mind can comprehend things infinite. Let's stop there. The thoughts of Allah cannot be circumscribed. What does circumscribe mean?
We'll draw a circle around too.
It literally means what you just said. Everybody know I love going with the etymology of words because the etymology of the words are the true meaning of the words. Where when you go to a modern day dictionary, number 1, number 2, number 3 definitions are the most popular usage of the word today. The most popular meaning is not necessarily the actual meaning. It's became corrupted over the years because people lost the meaning of the word, right? So, but the part of the meaning of the word that won't change is the etymology, because that's the history, how the word was derived, right? So circumscribe. Let's look at this word circumscribe. You see the word circle and scribe. What does scribe mean?
To draw.
To draw. So it literally means, without even looking at the dictionary, it literally means to draw a circle around. Islam? I used to work at a firm, and this European lady and I used to go to lunch all the time. It wasn't like that. We used to go to lunch. Y'all thought go to lunch. And we talked about the teachers, believe it or not. And she was so fascinated by things I was saying about these teachers she never heard of before. And she went home and told her husband, man, there is not one word that Kitty don't know the meaning of. And she actually thought I knew, I didn't know the meaning of all words, but what it was, I learned early on, I used to study the root of words. If you study the root of words, all words are made out of certain roots. And then they just add prefixes and suffixes on the end of it.
Right.
That's all they do. And if you study the root of words, you'd be shocked that you can look at many words and off the top, all might know the meaning of it. And so because I knew that, she just thought I knew the meaning of all words. She was like, he's saying a word, he don't even, don't know. And she said, what's the meaning of that word? So I she showed me the word, I looked at the meaning, that's so and so. She said, see? No, But even with all words, this is Sanskrit. Mahabhakya. It's 2 words.
Maha.
And Bhakya.
Yeah.
Maha means great. Bhakya means friends. And a lot of Sanskrit words, because I know a lot of the roots of it, I can see it because Sanskrit words are long to most people who are unlearned with Sanskrit to Sanskrit. But to me, they're not, because you can break them down to their root and you know the meaning of them all the time. But this is where English got the concept from. Sanskrit. Islam. All right. So we're saying the thoughts of Allah cannot be circumscribed. You can't draw a circle around the thoughts of God. So because you can't draw a circle around the thoughts of God, you can't time. Time never was when man was not. There was never a time when man didn't exist, right? In order to time the life of man, there have to be a definite beginning and a definite end, which circumscribes. Put him in a box. He was born here and he died here. That's a box. So he says the thoughts of God cannot be circumscribed.
Right.
This is the reason why you can't give no time to man.
Right.
Any thought of Allah, any thought that comes from you, have the essence of you. That makes sense? The thought you produce is just as powerful as you.
Right.
The thoughts of Allah are Allah. They're going to transform into Allah. So if you can't circumscribe Allah, you can't circumscribe His thoughts. Any questions, comments? I don't want to go too far, but we're working on fumes here. It's on, she was
Oh, no, I was going to say, that's why the next statement says, if life of man at any time began, a time will come when it would end. It can't. Because the life of man has always been.
And why? It's crazy. Because life can't do anything but be
Exists.
life.
Right.
Exactly. If life
It
was
only
made,
exists.
it only can exist.
Can never end.
Right. So now I'm going to pose a question here. And this is for us to think on over the next week. Is there truly a creation to man? I know you try to say creation, the fall of man. Right? But is there truly a creation and a fall? Now I know, you're looking at the book, but again, the book may not be saying what you think it's saying.
No, it's not a true creation.
It may not be saying what you think it's saying.
That's what I was trying to get at earlier.
I know what you're trying, and I said, wait till we get there. I know you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you right.
Again, I'm gonna leave you with this thought. For those who are listening, and for those who might listen to this, more record this on YouTube, they might hear this statement and say, well, that's what the chapter say, creation of all of man. Those people are not spiritual athletes. You know what I mean? So we always say, let me define again what we mean by spiritual athlete when we say spiritual athlete. Right? An athlete is one who improvises, right, better than ordinary man does. For example, if you have legs and have the ability, everybody can run. But everybody's not a Barry Sanders. What made Barry Sanders so good because he was able to improvise on his running. Most people just would run straight up and down. I would get tackled as soon as I get on the football field. They would tackle me. Bam! I'm just going. I'm gonna try to run as fast as I can. They go bam! They gonna lay me out. But Barry Sanders, he's gonna spin. He's improvising on his running. He's not running just straight north and south. He's hurling. He's jumping. He's an athlete, right? Everybody can box. You can put your hands up and throw punches, right? But an athlete, he knows how to finesse and connect and bob and weave, right? To throw the punch a certain way with the shoulder in order to get more power, things like that. That's improvised. It's more than this. My daughter can throw a punch, but can she throw an effective punch? No, because she's not an athlete yet. A spiritual athlete is one who improvises on his spiritual lessons. He just don't run up and down. He just don't read the letter of the law. He just don't accept the letter of the law. He knows that every definition He uses the grammar to his advantage to get a better understanding. He improvises. He's not put into a box. He says, well, I know that Allah alone is due praise, thanksgiving and praise. Allah alone is due thanksgiving and praise. I know that. But if Allah and man are one, and the nearest place to meet Allah is in your own breast, and when you look in the face of man, you look at the image of Allah speaks within, so why can't you say I give praise to the God that's in Brother Kabay ill? Why can't you say that? Moors won't say that they're so sticklers, so much sticklers to the letter of the law, you can't give praise to man. Well, they praise the personality of Jesus inside the Holy Koran.
Yeah.
That's what they said. And a lot of Moors wrestle with that. They like to ignore that because it's like, that's a contradiction to what they said in the other part of the verse. We ain't supposed to give praise to man, but it said praise the personality of Jesus.
Yeah.
Because that personality that Jesus was displaying at that time wasn't an ordinary human personality. When you start living from the revelation, what are we reciting? The Quran means to recite what? The revelation. To read what? The revelation. Islam? All holy books. The name of it basically is referring to the revelation. That's all the revelation of what? God. Self.
Yeah.
Consciousness. Read. Recite this revelation I gave you in the cave. Recite it to everybody. Give it to everybody. Right? The Bible, books. Holy Bible is Hebrew for books. About what? The revelation. 66 books expressing the revelation of man. The new covenant and the old covenant. Vedas means knowledge. Knowledge of what? The revelation. It's all about the revelation. That's all it's about. The Torah means law. Right? The law what? About the what? Revelation. If you stay within this law and you eat kosher food and do these things, this is going to purify yourself so you can receive the revelation. So this book is teaching us how to receive the revelation of God that all-seeing eye represent. Islam, praise be to Allah, honor to His holy prophet for everyone coming out. This concludes our Sunday School and Quran class. We will pick up on part 2 next week. I'm going to ask the sheep, Brother Wallace Hill, Sheep Wallace Hill, to come forth and close out. Peace and love.
No,